Because they like you? Why do people buy from you? Oh, no, go ahead. For sure, and why is that? For sure, so they trust your expertise, you're good at building relationships, and you said that they trust you, 100%. And you're a people person, that's one of my favorite terms, people person. Because how is any type of automation or any type of digital connection a real human connection? Why do people buy from us? They buy from us simply because they had a reason to, they had a feeling, they had a gut feeling, it just felt right, you know what I mean? So most people buy because of that feeling, that it feels right, I trust this person, they feel like the right type of person for me to do business with. So, what are psychographics? That's the ultimate question. Psychographics are those feelings. They can be measured. Their interests, their values, their morals, and their overall reasons for people to live. It's what do you believe in? And what people believe in can be measured, believe it or not. So psychographics are the measurement of these things. What are people's morals? What are their values? What are their interests? What actually makes them tick? So what does the future of B2B selling actually look like? That's the ultimate question. Well, in my opinion, it'll be a buyer-centric B2B sales scenario. So business to consumers had this right for the longest time, but in B2B, there's been a severe lack thereof. There's no real human connection made, and companies think that, okay, if it's cheap enough and we talk to procurement, that it's just gonna work out. Fantastic. But really, you're not doing business with Microsoft, you're doing business with Frank. You're not doing business with Deloitte, you're doing business with Karen. Nobody wants to do business with a company because companies are soulless. They're not people. The entire brand of a business is built around people. I like to say that people maketh the company, if that makes sense. If you can resonate with that, then you've got a pretty good idea of what's going on. So, buyer-centric sales. Buyer-centric sales, that's a concept. So how do these two things connect? Buyer-centric sales and psychographic analytics. Psychographic analytics can measure how well people will connect with one another. A lot of the work that we do in the artificial intelligence world is that we are measuring people, breaking them down into frequencies. When we're able to break them down into frequencies, they have their own vibe. So has anybody heard of the term vibe? Like, I really vibe with her, she's got a good vibe. Yep, exactly. So that vibe is short for vibration. A vibration is simply a frequency. A frequency is something that can be measured kind of like sound. Sound has frequencies. Let's say if you play a low C and a high C on a cello, there's da, da, right? Play the two together, it sounds good, and it quite literally feels good. Human beings have that type of a connection. It's not something spoken, it's something felt. And when you're starting to look at data of what makes people who they are, and you break it down to the zeros and ones, you can start understanding patterns within human beings. You can start understanding what makes them who they are. And you can find out, okay, these two people have an 88% probability to connect with one another. So the question is how not to royally fuck it up, right? That is something that so many businesses have been struggling with for the longest time. And what they're doing is that they're doing spray and pray outreach. Like, you know how it is. You get 50 million sales emails, you get 50 million sales outreaches on LinkedIn. It's really, really annoying, and it's inconvenient. So what do we do to actually fix that? Well, if we're able to measure and understand how people connect, we'll be able to pinpoint precisely who we should be talking to. If we're able to pinpoint precisely who we're supposed to be talking to, there's no reason to do the spray and pray. Now's the time to change, because think about what LinkedIn is currently doing. LinkedIn has now brought it down to you can only do 100 connections a day. So that fun little automation tool you're using on LinkedIn, that's not gonna cut it anymore. Because you can't connect with 500 people and hope one meets with you. Honestly, it's inconvenient, it's not fun. Nobody likes that. I don't connect with really anybody on LinkedIn, I ignore them all the time. I even took the connect button off of my profile. I don't want to talk to any of these people. So how not to fuck it up is to not spray and pray and do that brand damage that everybody loves. So LinkedIn's going to be bringing it down to about 50 connections per week. So they're dropping it even lower, and it should drop even lower than that, maybe 25. So how are we supposed to connect with people on a mass scale without having these issues? Google's also making it so with Gmail, even less outreach can go out. They say, sure, you could send 1,000 emails from a Gmail account. The truth behind that is that you can really only send about 250 without causing a problem. So if we're able to target qualified suspects, and so let me tell you the difference between a prospect and a suspect. A suspect is somebody who they seem to qualify from the surface level. I don't know if anybody is, really well-spoken in sales, but a suspect is someone who looks like they could be a target. A prospect is somebody who is a target. There's a big difference between the two. So now that we're able to properly connect to suspects and be able to almost predict to the point where they are a sales-qualified prospect, that creates a whole new opportunity of outreach that is very calculated and highly specified. So, again, stop sounding like a robot. That's key. And don't message pitches. So this is the fun part. There's nothing like getting a LinkedIn connection request where what you see is a pitch. It's like, hey, I have this product, you should buy it. There's nothing more pathetic than that. I mean, that is the saddest excuse of a sale. It really is. Because you shouldn't be selling on LinkedIn. Social selling, I'll push to the next one then. Social selling is social, believe it or not. Isn't that amazing? So it's not about selling on social media. It's about being a person and making that connection. They need to be able to trust you. If you sell or pitch on LinkedIn, if they didn't ask you specifically for a pitch, you shouldn't be giving one. All you're doing is maintaining that connection and creating a landscape that they can feel like they can trust you, that they can connect with you, and the whole objective of social selling is just to set a meeting. That's it. Set the meeting, have the conversation. That becomes a really arduous task, though. If you keep setting these meetings with people that do not want to buy from you, do not connect to you, and do not want to do business with you, that's going to take most of your salespeople's time. The average salesperson spends about 1 hour a day in front of an actual sales opportunity. That is a Forrester metric. That's legit. So, 1 hour of time in front of an actual opportunity per day. That means 7/8 of someone's salary is actually getting tossed into an empty office chair as the salesperson is running around in a circle chasing their tail. Does that seem like a good use of money? There's no other way to do it. That's what people think. Things need to change. So we need to build technology. So we've been more connected than ever before because of the internet. And then COVID made everything virtual. But even though we've been more connected than ever before, we are less connected than ever. And it was technology that did that to us. Sure, I build technology. I love technology. I think it's great. It solves a lot of problems, but it's also caused a lot of problems. So what we need to do is we need to undo the issue that we created by building technology to be able to combat that, 100%. If we can make that human connection and make it work, that is a super, super important thing that we should all be focused on. That's what my life's work is around, connecting people to people. Social media does not connect people to people, it creates noise. It's about navigating social media is what's going to connect people to people. So, another thing, want to make a point, don't be so professional. People who act professional, that's great, it's an act. No one's like that in real life. You ever met someone who speaks to you like, a Gen X CEO who's been in the game for way too long? Who actually speaks to people like that? Nobody. Anybody who acts professional in their personal environment, I can almost guarantee you they're a sociopath. Seriously. Like, hey, nice to meet you, My name's Rob Turley. Let's keep it serious. Nobody does that. Seriously, but that's the thing. Don't be so professional. Be a person because people connect with people. Again, I will reiterate that 1,000 times, 1,000 times again. So, selling is just like dating. That's the last point I want to make here. Think about when you go to a bar, whether you want a man, woman, or whatever else. What do? You don't just walk up to them and say, I like your shoes, and then run away, right? No, that's you're not going to get any game like that, right? So really what you're doing is that you need to create a conversation about something that they truly value or is truly unique about them. That is so important to do. If someone just says, I like the post that you made, and then they just run away, you're expecting a response from that? No, that's like someone saying, I like your shoes, and then just running away. It's not a good compliment. If you say something so specific, like, I love that necklace that you have because it has this specific type of quality, and was it something that was an heirloom, they're gonna say, oh, how did you know? That's the thing, is that it needs to be something that resonates with them. And that's one of the issues with doing this mass outreach, is that resonance is not created when you're trying to do personalization at scale. That doesn't exist. There's no personalization at scale. When you're just having it so it fills out their name and you're sending the same message to everybody, frankly, that's bullshit. There's no personalization in there. All it's doing is just doing an algorithm that figures out what their name is and then just passes it on. So one of the important parts of this is relevance at scale, is what should be done. If you're able to create micro-demographics of people by using psychographic analytics, you can have tiny segments of people where you could be hyper-specific with the messaging, and they have so much in common with one another that you could do outreach to a couple hundred people that will resonate with them at a personal level. It's all about having that data and having that understanding of how humans connect. Once you have the opportunity to do so, that connection becomes far easier. For example, one of the clients that we work with, their connection request rate on LinkedIn, acceptance rate was about 27%. That's awful. You're practically spamming somebody. It's just the people who don't look at them that's connecting. That's what created the disconnect. So, if we're able to have these micro-demographics actually to connect people to people, and we're creating this messaging around very specific qualities, what type of a sales world will that create? That's the ultimate question. One of the people we worked with, for example, I don't want to talk about myself or my clients, but it went from a 27% connection request rate, another client, 32% connection request rate of acceptance. There's absolutely nothing going on there. We have it go up to about 76 to 86% connection request acceptance rate. It's because people are actually sending each other messaging that is resonating with one another, and their success rate of setting meetings exponentially increases. Their close ratio increases between 4.5 to 7x. It's because that connection's being made. It's an incredible thing, and it's simply by understanding humans in a way that they are a pattern. So what I like to say is that interest doesn't pay the bills unless it's compound interest, and that's not how marketing and sales works. Marketing teams still they're yet to figure this out, okay? So one of the disconnects, since we're talking about disconnects, is that the sales team and the marketing team are two silos. They shouldn't be silos. They should be directly connected with one another. But that connection is really hard to make because the marketing team's created a community around these people that resonate with these other people. God knows what reason why, but it's just based off of interest. They're interested in the content. They download the white papers. Great. But the sales team is pointing their fingers at the marketing team going, these guys are generating crap leads, I don't even want to contact them. When it gets really bad, the sales team isn't even using the content the marketing team's creating for them. Which, I mean, are you kidding me? That's just throwing money in the toilet. It happens all the time. I can name 2 Fortune 500 companies that happens right now that I've been talking to. That's insane. Their marketing content literally gets thrown in the trash because it doesn't resonate with their demographic. The people who the sales team have the ability to sell to versus who's interested in the content released are two very different things. Extremely different things. So how can we bridge that gap? If we're able to understand the demographic at a micro level of who the sales team is selling to by looking at an entire client ecosystem and being able to analyze that, similar to the talk yesterday in the morning, if you went to that keynote, that guy did a fantastic job. But that's the idea, is being able to understand your client ecosystem, process that data, understand that information, and then pass that to the marketing team. It's a game changer. The reason why is because the marketing team can now create content around the community of people that the sales team have the ability to sell to. So when they're generating leads for people, when they're creating content that people are engaging with, the chances of them being someone that they have the ability to sell to, that will buy, will increase exponentially. Exponentially. That disconnect that's created is it's a data bridge that can fill that gap. So technology could take its place to actually fill that gap. And people, this has been a serious problem in business for the longest time. It's a conundrum. No one's been able to figure it out. How do we get the sales team to work with the marketing team? Some people say that they have done it, but they're probably lying, or it's close. So how do we fill that gap? It could be done with data. So the key to everything, this man said it all, sitting right here. Likeness, trust, and relatability. How can that be achieved? Well, you have to understand who you sell to first. People really have not been doing the background research on who their people are, that they're selling to, that they do business with, who they've failed to do business with. Humans are really good at looking at what went right and trying to replicate it, but they're really, really bad at looking at what went wrong and actually looking at what went wrong. Not just acknowledging, okay, I acknowledge that, we need to repeat this process. What went right and what went wrong are two very similar things. You'd think I'd say different. No, not at all. The gray area is unbelievable. There's just a couple of nuances that actually change between this went right and this went wrong. If you really look at the patterns, when you're looking at trillions and trillions of patterns within the data from your sales and from your marketing, there's just tiny little nuances that change it. How do you detect those little traces? That's where technology comes in as well. Artificial intelligence can look at all of that. I know I'm a huge advocate for it, but that disconnect that we've created over these years of just pounding people with messaging, just trying to get as many people as possible, the volume process, thanks to the 90s, it's got to stop. And the ways that we reach out to people needs to change. I don't agree with email marketing. I think cold calling is more effective than ever before. I don't just think that, I know that. Look at what happened with COVID. Cold calling is effective again. It's because people want to make a real human connection because they haven't left their house in like a year. That's the thing. Things change and they evolve over time, but you need to be able to understand that change. You need to know why people trust each other. You need to know why people like each other. What is that connection? But often it's way deeper than a human can understand. And why is something relatable? So, my last point here is people do business with people, period. That's it. So I'd like to ask, again, somebody else, why does someone do business with you? Anybody could speak up. You wanted to go last time? Oh, yeah.
I'm unique, and nobody else does exactly how I do it, and I consistently deliver.
But how many other people say the same thing?
I have the numbers to back it up.
Right, but not everything's numbers. Well, it's all numbers, but not really. So think about it. What makes you more unique than anybody else? Absolutely, you are unique, but it's not your business. Your business offers the same thing as a million other businesses do. That's just the reality of it. But what makes you unique? Yeah, go ahead.
They know, like, and trust what it comes down to.
And how did that happen?
It happened because we built a relationship that allowed me to get into rapport early on and build upon that, and eventually we become knowing, liking, and trusting each other. We do business together.
Love it. And how did you establish that connection? What really was it? Think about it. Think really, really deep. What was that thing that just made it happen, that flipped the switch?
I listened. You know what I mean? I listened to their needs, their wants, their desires, and if I was able to put myself in a place to get in the middle of, or get in the way, in essence, helping them meet their needs, wants, and desires in a way that was kind of ethical and empathetic to their needs, wants, and desires, it happened.
I love this guy. We got to do business. But that's the thing, is that you listened. What are the three core things that people, human beings, want in this world? The three core things. They want to be validated. They want to feel like they're a part of the tribe. This is primal stuff. And they want to be loved. And part of being part of the tribe is being listened to. That's it. That's all people want. So if we can understand these primal core factors about people at an extremely deep level, that completely changes the game on how we can connect. Be human. Thank you. That's it for me.